Okay, welcome back. Reality is not what it seems. Uh, Welcome back to another Lovecraft eZine podcast, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're at a different time than usual, and because we're doing two podcasts today. Our guest, Christian Francis, is over in the UK, so to do it at a on a on a Sunday afternoon over here would be like midnight over there or 1 in the morning.
Hmm.
So that's why we're doing this. So, all right. So let's, Jeremiah Dylan Cook is with me today too. He's a patron and a friend and a writer. Uh, let's have you, why don't you introduce yourself real quick, Jeremiah?
I think you nailed most of the points there. I guess the only thing I'd
All
add
right.
is my first book, my debut collection, Mythos of Monsters and Madness, is now out on. You can find it on my website or on Amazon. And if you like In the Mouth of Madness, I can almost guarantee you will like my book because it is very much influenced by my love of In the Mouth of Madness. So,
Yeah, there are some weird coincidences going on right now with all of this that I'll get into in a minute. If you're watching for the first time, uh, we do this every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern live on this channel. Also do a Tuesday night and a Thursday night show, but the Sunday shows are exactly like this one. We talk about horror, interview creators, publishers, writers, artists, and so forth. So, and always fun when we could delve back into Lovecraftian horror. So, I'm Mike Davis, and our guest is Christian Francis. Christian, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, my name's Christian Francis. I'm a horror author who is also a publisher, and I run Echo One Publications, who specialize in retro horror novelizations because novelizations have gone out of vogue, and there are so many films in the even 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s that were never given a novelization. So now it's my chance to choose the
Oh,
films I
okay.
loved and get to novel and license them and novelize them. And In the Mouth of Madness was my white whale, the one I always wanted, and took me 3 years to get.
How do people get to your website? What's your website URL?
Echohorror.com. That's
Echohorror.com.
echohorror.com.
Okay, that's easy enough to remember.
Hmm.
Um,
When I ever get remember to update the website, that is. Just
well, you did the novelization for In the Mouth of Madness, and it is now out as of a few days ago. It's out in print and Kindle, and I've got the link in the show notes, you guys. Also, a link to Jeremiah's book too in the show notes. So, um, great time of year to do it too. It's finally October, finally. So,
Yeah. It's really weird, like, because there's the whole 4K edition coming out from Arrow
yeah.
of that. I didn't even know that was coming out until like if with more foresight and if I knew that that was in planning stages, we could have done a whole been included with the Blu-ray and be part of the big celebration. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
I found out about it like when I got to the last chapter of writing. I was like, oh my God, there's
Oh,
a 4K coming out.
well, that's what I mean. There are about weird coincidences around
Hmm.
this, and coincidences just that, but it's weird. Um, Jeremiah, you have some questions for him too, because I gotta take care of this cat real quick. I'm sorry, I never do this.
sure. Oh, geez. I feel like so. For those who may listen on audio later, my eyes are currently bleeding, and that's because I read the entire novelization last night in basically one furious go, and very much enjoyed it. And I noticed, first off, that there's a couple of interesting changes, and I guess my question is, did you have kind of leeway when you were writing it to add some stuff, or was that just kind of bleed over from the original script?
Well, basically, I was going off the first draft of Mike DeLuca's script because when I always do novelizations, I try to only go via the script because then you get the writer's undiluted like, imaginings. That's their story they wanted to tell. And also, if you adapt the film, that's a whole new license you've got to do. And with this book is licensed from Mike DeLuca. I mean, yes, he is the CEO of Warner Brothers now, which is insane. But I would have to then license from Warner Brothers, but Warner Brothers wouldn't license the film rights Mike would only license that. So I had to use the script, and anything that was in the movie and not in the script is I couldn't use it. Which is there wasn't much to be fair because everyone credits Carpenter with a lot of In the Mouth of Madness of being like his film. But if you read the novelization, read the script, you'll see there was not much. I mean,
Hmm.
the cinema at the end, yeah, that was a lot of it was like like parts of that were like John just Carpenter, but the bits I could do was because a script is a series of short scenes and there's very little like connective tissue and they don't really have time to breathe in a book. So a scene that might be, you know, half a page long wouldn't work in a book because it's just a cutaway to something else for the but in a film it works because it's just visual. So I have to like reimagine that scene as like
Hmm.
a sort of a through line to the rest of the book. So it's all flowing because otherwise every chapter would be like 5 pages long. And I got, but I did take a big liberty, and I probably wasn't supposed to, but it got approved, and that was with the chapter of the feeding that I threw at the end. Like
Okay, cool.
that
I
was
like
just
that.
me.
Yeah.
That was just me because there's one bit in the script which wasn't in the film where uh, Styles gets out of the car when they first enter Hobbs End. And she looks up and she tells a story of the girl at the window with her feet like knocking on the window after being hung. Um, and it was that I suddenly went, that isn't enough story. I mean, it was told in the script as a kind of a throwaway thing and like, oh, just a bit creepy. But in a book, you've kind of got to explain a bit more. And I was there racking my brain to the very end, going, how do I explain this one scene? Like, can I go back? And I was like, I'll just do what horror authors used to do and bung a chapter of a forthcoming book or an old book that they're trying to push. So I just completely made up the feeding, like, because obviously that was a film, but I didn't know the story because nobody knows the stories. Those, I don't know if you're a fan of like the props and that, like all the books that people made over the years. That was KNB Effects made all of those little books and all the covers. But the bios on the back were just written by an intern who was there, and it's not like officially sanctioned plot things. So for the feeding, I could literally make up what it was about.
I that it was that's awesome because so I just read that that was like well obviously the most recent thing I read since I read through the
Mm,
whole thing, but I
Hmm.
love that chapter because it felt like a little short story in itself.
mm,
You know, like obviously it's supposed to be a pretend first chapter of a book, but it also reads like a perfectly little self-contained little creepy short story, a la
yeah,
the lottery, a la you know something like
yeah,
that. So I
Also
thought that was
the
really cool.
sorry, also the final word
mm,
at the
yes.
end,
Oh, of course, yeah.
the
I mean,
the
all the
epilogue.
bits, yeah, because all the
Yeah.
bits with because basically Sutter Cane talks to John Trent throughout the film, and but only in little snippets. But I had to make it a bit more understandable of what he was doing because a lot of people who will be reading this book, a significant portion of them won't have seen the film, which is
Oh, you
strange.
think so?
Yeah, I mean, I found that with my past
Really?
books, a lot of people have bought them and said, "Oh, I've been told this is creepy, but I prefer books over films, so I'll read the book." And then when they
Oh,
like
wow.
like I had that with session 9, like people saying, "Oh, everyone said it was like really really scary, so I just thought I'd read the book first because books I find scarier." And then afterwards, they're like, "Oh, I'd love to see the film now." Which is
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, it's the point of a novelization. I mean, novelizations were released when a film was released back in the day to get people to go see the film.
Yeah.
So,
Or a bit ahead of time,
yeah,
like the Batman '89 novelization.
yeah.
I was
X Men.
crazy to watch it, and I read the novelization before the movie
Mm.
came out.
Yes.
Yeah, I did the same thing with X Men when that came out. The novelization came out first, and I read it because I was just
Yeah.
excited. And then it's interesting though because you also get to see in those days you would see what the story was versus how it
Mm.
changed on the film because there was always changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like, I mean, I think my first one that I did that with was Lost Boys because I
that's a
was
great one.
so a long time ago. But yeah, the bits with Sutter Kane taught I did I kind of because I did the novelization for Wishmaster and I did the same thing in that because I had the Jinn open the book by talking to the reader and saying, you're reading the book, but I'm telling you now, you are going to make 3 wishes. And then in the middle of the book, he cuts in again and talks directly to the reader again. And then after it's all over, the last bit is him direct talking to them again, saying like proving he was right. But within the Mathematics, I got to use that little like device again and have Sutter talking directly to the reader. And like the final word was something, I mean, that was something obviously I came up with. That wasn't obviously in the script. But the whole idea that the world has already ended and ended on the date the film came out, which is I thought it was quite a fun little thing to do, and I know there's going to be people out there that won't like it, which because you're dealing with fandom and who knows, people
Yeah,
have
and there are a lot of strong opinions about things like that, like in
yeah.
the mouth of madness, Superman, Batman, whatever.
And I basically because at the end, the whole thing of like, well, the world has ended. I mean, if you would look back, if you were in the 90s and then looked at today, you would think everyone had gone mad. And it's 100% true. It's kind of like it's kind of a very, I think, a valid point. And I'm hoping that people are going to read that and just their reaction will be like, huh, all right, that's kind of cool. That's
Yeah, I often look back at the 90s and man, it was just peaceful, smooth sailing for the most part. I mean, in the
yeah,
United States at least. And
yeah,
um, I mean, the worst problem we had was the president having sex in the Oval Office. If that's your worst problem, you're in
yeah,
good shape.
yeah,
And then 1999 gets here, you got Columbine, and then 9/11, and then it just escalates.
yeah. And
So
it's
yeah,
like,
it's weird.
I think it's 100% true. I mean, like, it's really difficult to like write something and not put your opinions in. Like it's so difficult to like, even if you're trying your best not to put your own opinions in, especially with novelizations, because you're telling someone else's story. But at
Right.
the end, I'm basically saying my own opinion about it all.
Well,
Like,
speaking
like,
as a hardcore in the mouth of madness fan, I loved it. So I,
oh,
I
thank
don't
you.
I don't think you'll get a lot of negative pushback because I think everyone pretty much anyone who was around in the '90s or pre 9/11, post 9/11, at least in
Mm.
the U.S. will understand that and be laugh at that because it's true.
But by the way, let me spotlight Jeremiah here for a second. Jeremiah's got the blood coming out of his eyes, so he's
Yeah,
been reading the book.
yep,
So,
I read it all night. We talked about it for a second while you were
oh,
off.
did you?
Just
Yeah,
for a
sorry I had to
second.
go. I never do that, but I got this little stray cat in here. She's getting used to being in here in my office, and my other cat just went nuts. So I don't know. He's supposed to be used to her by now. But anyway, back to this. Um, you know, I was gonna say something about the coincidences. There's the 4K. When's that coming out?
I think it's
Or
the
is
end
that
of the month. I think it's like the 28th or something.
okay?
I think.
Or they'll probably feed on each other, would be my
Yeah,
guess
I mean, are
with
they
the
they
4K.
they're going to be I've sent them a few copies of the books to do a giveaway and they're
Oh,
sending me a couple of copies of the 4K edition to do a giveaway as well. So there's
oh,
some
nice.
co-pro going on there, which I'm glad of, mainly because I'll get to see it in 4K.
The other thing is, the one of the most basic ideas or themes of the film is that um, belief shapes reality. Reality is what everyone believes. Yeah. And the other day, I interviewed Michael Wehunt. He's got a new book out called The October Film Haunt.
Mhm.
And he touches on that same theme in the book. And it's kind of weird. So, in his book, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but someone's trying to get everyone to believe in something called the Arch creature.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's just a weird theme to, yeah. And then, with the world being the way it is, you know, y- you wish that the shared belief that everybody has is let's all be kind to each other, you
Yeah,
know,
you'd hope
empathy. Yeah.
that.
I,
So,
I think a lot of that, I think in the mouth of madness, in some ways, can be traced back to the King in Yellow, which is,
Mhm.
I think that's the root of that crazy thread in horror, which is, fiction driving you crazy, and what is real, what is not real, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Which is
I
also,
mean,
I love the King in Yellow. So
I will give Mike DeLuca like the utmost respect for coming up with something that was, I think, like it called upon all the best parts of Lovecraftian horror while bringing in a, a timeless paranoia that will work in any decade because everyone has felt a little mad sometimes. Like maybe not to the point of, taking over the world and destroying it, but still,
Well, it's good to
But
have a goal. I
yeah,
mean,
but if you look at look at Mike DeLuca's other scripts, like Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. That was like his one, which is, I mean, a lot of people rag on that film. I love it, but again, it's like a dystopian kind of f film that is about paranoia and belief. And
yeah,
it's like people believing like no, like everyone now believed in Freddy Krueger. Everyone like it's years in the future. There's no kids left in Springfield, so it's like the whole belief. He's very much of like that kind of dystopian world where belief molds everything.
yeah.
So
Reality is just what we tell each other it is.
and unfortunately it is. I mean, look at us. I mean, I always sort of compare it to like a small cult. Like this,
Yeah,
put the people in a small cult will believe absolutely anything without evidence or whatever, but they will still believe it. There's
yeah,
no reason why that, like that being large scale, isn't very possible. Well, it is at the moment. So the
yeah.
whole
It's
thing, like,
it's called evidence from authority. That's one of the many
hmm,
things that you find in a cult because the leader says it's true. That makes it true.
hmm,
I think everyone out there should read Carl Sagan's book, The Demon Haunted World.
hmm.
Looks like you've read it
Yes,
because you're nodding. Um, but he said something. I was thinking about it today. I wrote down a couple of quotes. I love that book. I read it when it first came out in the 90s. He says, I worry uh, that, and he said, especially as the millennium edges nearer, pseudoscience and superstition will seem year by year more tempting, the siren song of unreason more attractive. Where have we heard it before? Whenever our ethnic or national prejudices are aroused in times of scarcity during challenges to national self-esteem or nerve, where we agonize about our diminished cosmic place and purpose. Um, the candle flame gutters, and the little pool of light trembles. Its little pool of light trembles. Darkness gathers, the demons began to stir. So, yeah,
basically describes everything.
yeah,
I mean, it's also it's quite. I found out one thing with this book that I found quite strange is that since announcing it, getting it announced in all the trades, all the sort of the big magazines, news sites, all pushing it, so few people still know about it. Like I'm still getting people going, I've never even heard of this. And it's like, you literally follow Fangoria and Dread Central and they have been posting about it a bit. Like you should have seen this, but it seems that people, I think, don't believe it that it's come out. Mainly because I think because over the years people have released the props as like you can buy them on eBay, just the fake books, which don't have any actual story in it. But I think a lot of people don't believe it's coming out or think it's a joke. Because
Yeah, I remember hearing about it a while ago, and I didn't hear about it again until fairly recently. And
hmm,
talking about the props, I actually had a friend who did the prop stuff, and he sold them, and
yeah.
he covered Stephen King paperbacks with the Sutter Cane stuff
Nice.
and sold them. And I thought it
also
was pretty good. Yeah, so
I saw a popular Instagram post this morning. The guy said that he really likes the book and everyone's looking forward to it because Mike DeLuca wrote the book.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Other thing is, it's the unfortunate thing of like when you get the book and it's the same design that K and B came up with. It's nothing amazing, but it's just
right,
what it is. But I had to release this like this. It had to be Sutter Cane. Imagine if that said "In the Mouth of Madness," the official novelization by Christian Francis.
yeah,
That would have been shit.
yeah,
But then the only way you know it's not the original book is because the copyright page says copyright 2025 Michael DeLuca.
right,
My name doesn't appear in any page, and that is intentional because
okay.
my name shouldn't be part of this, even though I mean I wrote it fine, but this is like
Well,
my love letter to the books. Like this
yeah,
is
and it's fun to pretend. It's like watching
yeah.
one of my favorite movies is Lake Mungo, which is a
Oh
faux documentary.
yes, I've tried
And
to get the rights to that.
oh, have you? Yeah,
I
and
can't
the
get a
thing
hold of
is,
anyone.
you sit down, and this is a fictional documentary.
Hmm,
Okay, that sitting down. But if you really want to enjoy it for that amount of time, you tell yourself, okay, I'm watching a documentary about what happened here, and it's
hmm.
far more enjoyable. The same with In the Mouth of Madness by Sutter Cane instead of by Christian,
Yeah. I just didn't want to ruin it, but I know a lot of
Right.
people do feel like Mike wrote it, which, to be fair, I'm fine with. It's
Hey, whatever.
as long as they're getting the book, they're enjoying
They're
it,
gonna,
and
more people will buy it.
yeah, I mean that's great. I mean it's but that's the kind of thing I'm fine with. I mean all my other books I've done have my name on it. I'm not
Yeah.
after like fame and fortune. Fortune would be lovely. Um, but just the fact that now when somebody asks, "Do you read Sutter Cane?" people can actually say yes. Um,
Yeah.
I think
Also, let me,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Christian. Go
No,
ahead.
no, no, it's fine. I was going to go off on a major tangent there, so I'll just
I just want to say that I deliberately never get into politics on this show because, and especially the worse the world gets, I do believe that people deserve to have a place where they can
Mm,
go and kind of escape it for a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna watch Mike's podcast. At least I don't have to, I mean, that'll cheer me up for a bit, hopefully, and I don't have to think about the state that the world is in.
mm,
And that's deliberate. But I will say that everyone should read Sagan's book, um, and The Demon Haunted World, and that, and Sagan, I got all this from Sagan. He said this, but he said that, uh, well, it's dangerous whenever you wish something is true or whenever you wish something is not true. That's when it's most dangerous for you
mm.
because you have to really b- prove that belief, find that evidence. And he said, um, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. So I guess my little soapbox, and it's almost over now, is for anyone, no matter what political stripe you are, if you don't get that book, get something like it because you have to learn how to think in an evidence-based way. And I had some friends and I, we were raised in a cult, and one of the friends, I left when I was 18. And it's just like that. What the cult leader says is true, and it was pretty awful. But the reason why I bring this up is that one of my friends, he's like, a couple of years later after all this, he's like, I'm going to go out to California. I want to check out California. And he was talking to somebody else, and he told me that he told somebody else about it. And they're like, well, watch out when you get to California. There are a lot of cults. And he goes, you don't have to worry. I've been inoculated. So it's like when it happens to you once, then you especially are guarding against it. And
Mm,
I just want everyone to, whatever your conclusions are, make sure they're evidence based,
yeah.
you know. But
I mean,
that,
my thing with all that is everyone should just be nice.
that would be great. So,
That's it.
but yeah, getting back to it, just it was almost unavoidable in my thinking because In the Mouth of Madness is about, you know, reality is what we tell each other it is.
Mm,
And I love that theme even when it's not a horror movie, like The 13th Floor
yeah.
or The Matrix. I like both movies. I thought The 13th Floor actually did it better, you know.
And then that's
Um,
it's a crying shame that that film came and went. Like no,
yes,
nobody remembers it.
yeah.
Like
There was
it's
actually there's a weird amount of movies that came out in 1999 that sailed under the radar that
mm,
decades later I look at, I'm like, that's a good movie though.
There's
That's a
yeah,
really
there's
good
just
movie.
so many good movies that came out, and it's incredible. Like we'll
mm.
Yeah.
never have a year like that again.
The
Office
13th
Space, The
Warrior.
Matrix, etc. The Mummy. There's
Yeah.
so many. Like it's just insane.
Well,
I
not
think
only so many, but so many that people were like, that sucks. And then later, I've seen The 13th Warrior like 5 times. I
yeah,
love it.
it's a genius film. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one I've tried to hunt down and like rights to because most of my time is spent, if it's not writing, it's trying to find the rights holders to basically see if I can license. And if it belongs to a studio, there's no chance in hell because they won't look at it unless you have $1 million up front. And I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. I was told that by MGM. You have to have at least $1 million or we won't even pay attention. It's like, have you ever seen a book before? No, unless you're Stephen King, you're never going to make $1 million.
Yeah. Well, this begs the question, how did you get the rights to this book? What was the process like?
Well, I left when I was once published by another publisher, and I basically wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to do it a way I wanted to do it, and
Sure.
because I thought I could do it better. Not anything against them. I just have my, I want to do particular kinds of films. I wanted to go after the films myself. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was a few years ago. And as soon as I left, the first thing I did was write a master list of every single film. If I could novelize it, if it hasn't been out already, what would they be? In the like at the top was basically my top 10. In the Mouth of Madness, I think it was number one. Um, and straight away, I had to do rights searches to see who owned the rights. And
Yeah.
the novelization rights, because thank God for the Writers Guild of America,
Mhm.
because they're so good that if you wrote an original story and you are the main screenwriter and you are the originator and it's your story, doesn't matter if it's by a studio, you own the novelization rights unless the studio specifically bought them afterwards. So all I had
Did
to
not know
do,
that.
yeah, so all I had to do was contact Mike DeLuca. Yeah, have you ever tried to contact the head of Warner Brothers before? It's
No.
getting anything to them is to anyone of that stature. I mean, no, not just that stature. Getting like film people and musicians are very, very guarded with being able to get contacted unless you go through their agents or their
Yeah.
managers. The problem is agents will say no straight away because they take a percentage of every deal that they put forward. So unless it's a big deal, they're not going to bother.
Right.
Uh, Managers might if they deem it to be worthy. I was so lucky that I managed to get Mike's email and contact him, and he didn't answer for a year.
Wow.
And I sent him an email once a month, first of the month, and he wasn't ignoring it. He just didn't see it because he is so busy.
Yeah.
Like a lot of emails just don't get noticed. You know, of course they don't
Yeah.
because he's running a studio. And I literally got an email back that said, "Sounds brilliant. Tell me more." I was like,
Wow.
"Okay." And bear in mind that I have like there's a couple of films I'm doing at the moment that I've been in active negotiations for over a year of like going back and forth on points and things like that. Stupid points, like a terminology in a contract, and it takes a month for them to reply because you're dealing with a lawyer. But Mike was absolutely fantastic, really
Wow.
enthusiastic, got me in contact with his lawyer and said, "Yep, you two sort out the details in the contract, send it to me when I sign, and then we'll do it." And like even
Oh,
to
I
the point
love
of when
that
I
though.
sent him the book to approve, like a week later, wrote back, "Approved, brilliant." Like,
Wow.
I'm used to notes. That was kind of like fortuitous, and it was like kind of a dream. I mean,
Did
because
you, when you
before
finally got that email back, did your eyes start bleeding? You were so shocked.
I won't lie, they were wet, but not with blood.
Yeah,
I had a little moment. I had a little
yeah,
break.
of
It was just oh
course.
god. But yeah, because I mean, I've had it where I have licensed the book, finished the book, sent it to the guy, and they turned around and had a big problem with it to the point where I've ended up canceling the book, and
Wow.
it's already written. And that's because they didn't believe it should be done in a certain way because they wanted it to be more like the film. And I was like, I licensed the screenplay, or you changed this. Why did you change it to this? It's like, because it's more believable. Because when you're writing a book based, I mean, in The Mouth of Madness didn't have this, but a lot of the other books that are 80s and 90s based, they'll have like, let's just say some problematic elements, whether it's somebody just being homophobic or something, or really
Yeah,
sexist, or just a vile sentence that you'd sit there and go, there is no one in this world that would read this in this climate and be okay with that, despite the fact it's a classic line in a classic film or whatever. So I have to basically reframe a lot of that and remove it, or at least make the characters more believable, because a lot of characters in films, especially older horror films, they're not really that believable. They're like kind of stock characters. But in a book, you kind of have to make even the littlest character believable. So, I made a character in this one book. She's a prostitute. So I made her a prostitute and not just a comedy element. She's literally a prostitute in the book. But then it's like, why did you make her a prostitute? It's like, because she is.
yeah.
Like, but then I cancelled I cancelled the book and just went, I'm done with that. But
There's a really good novelization of The Terminator.
yeah,
And have you read that?
yeah.
It's hard to get, but the guy at the beginning in the garbage truck,
Mm,
the older guy and that runs off when the lightning or
yeah.
whatever. He's got this whole backstory. He used to be a football player and he
It's
hurt his knee
great.
or something. Can't remember. Yeah, I love it.
Well, things I that's the kind of thing that I loved. I mean, with In the Mouth of Madness, I didn't want to veer too far off page because it's the story. I love the story as it is. There's not. I don't
Sure.
think I could have improved on the flow of that story better than Mike wrote it. But I did write one where I went completely, absolutely. I did that, but I did it to every character. So I don't know if you remember the 1986 Grace Jones vampire film, Vamp, about the vampire strippers. That's
Don't know.
yeah, it's basically two college kids go to a strip club in the middle of the city, and it happens to be full of vampires luring people in. But so I think it's way before Dust Till Dawn, and it's actually a really good film. It's kind of one of those comedy horrors they did in the 80s for some reason. They take a subject like vampires and go, let's make it funny. But I stripped out the comedy, made it a tragedy, and put about another 150% worth of story into it. I mean, I released it. Uh, it's a massive book, but I mean, half of this is actually I included the original screenplay, but just basically as a thing to go so you could see how much I actually did to it. But I literally did that, and it's because of Terminator, the Terminator book that I did that. Because ever since reading that,
Really?
yeah, because I've always loved it when the characters that really don't really do anything where you give something to them, you give them a bit of extra
Right.
plot. Like I mean, I've got The Descent coming out in a few days' time, the caving one about the girls in the cave with all the
Sure.
monsters. And there's the at the beginning, the main character's in a car crash where a husband and kid die. I decided to tell the story of the other driver. So just before they get in the car, I cut to the other driver and how his day's going and what he's doing and what he actually leads to it. Because for that in particular scene, you're basically, it's a shock. You're driving with them, and then all of a sudden it happens. But in a book, that wouldn't work. I'd have to reframe it. So I went, I'm just going to tell their story. So I spent like 4 or 5 pages telling about this guy driving a load of lumber across the city. Like, so it's that's the fun part. But then,
Yeah.
but also the Sutter, the Jin in Wishmaster and Sutter Cane talking to the audience is from Gremlins 2. My love of Gremlins 2 novelization. Because in that, the Gremlin talks to the audience. The Professor Gremlin talks to the reader in one of the chapters, which I found absolutely amazing. And it's basically because I've been a massive novelization fan all my life, I've taken a lot of bits and pieces and adapted them in my own way to books,
Yeah.
which I think is a lot of fun. Because what I want with novelizations, I want anyone to read any of my books, especially things like In the Mouth of Madness, and immediately want to watch the film again.
Sure.
That's my love. It's because basically I'm trying to share my love of these films. That's why I'll never do a film. I'll never do a novelization of a film I don't have some love for, even if it's a really cheesy, terrible film. I'll still love it despite that. So
I threw In the Mouth of Madness on, of course, as soon as I finished the rereading it, because
Hmm.
specifically because I could not remember if the publishing company was actually called Arcane or not. And it was, and I was very
yeah.
impressed. I was like, oh, that's very cool that like detail. Because I thought there was maybe you might take your made up publishing company and then kind of insert it into the story and kind of make it a weird thing. But that was right there on the page.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's even funnier that because I've obviously released it as Arcane, not Echo One Publications,
Right.
and even on the Amazon page, it has Arcane Publishing, and I've set that up as a subsidiary of Echo One Publications just for this book.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
because you have
That's
to do
awesome.
that. That's the sort of thing you have to do, and but I mean, if you look at like there's the Amazon page of all of Echo One's novelizations. I mean, that comes in it obviously.
Sure.
I'm just hoping that my insistence for this to be as realistic as possible doesn't backfire and then people start like going, well, it's not a real book.
No,
Like,
I mean, it's hard to say because I'm obviously the super nerd of this.
mm,
So, for me, it's like it's a draw, right? That you're
mm.
just selling it more to me. Like there was, you know, but um, well, in talking about changes and stuff like that again too. So one of the bigger things I noticed was in the movie. This might be a movie versus script thing.
Mm,
In the movie, Hobbs End is in New Hampshire, but
mm.
in the book, it's in Maine. And
Yeah.
I've always felt the big influences on In the Mouth of Madness are obviously Lovecraft and Stephen King. I mean, he's like literally name dropped in the
Mm.
story. And Stephen King has the New England setting and obviously the Maine setting. So it seems like if that came from the script, I imagine that was a
Yes, it
Stephen
did.
King nod.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's all been. I mean, Sutter Cane is. the only reason that in the script it says Sutter Cane outsells Stephen King is because they couldn't call it Stephen King. It is Stephen King.
Yep.
I mean, it's literally it's supposed to be Stephen King writes a book that is so like world changing, and it's just an imagination on that. And as a side note, I did write to Stephen King, aside to because I wanted to novelize a couple of his screenplays. Um, I asked him, could you just give a quote and just make it up now about Sutter Kane, not about the book. It doesn't have to be about the book, just anything to make this more real.
Right.
And he said no.
Oh,
So I'm not sure he took the film as a compliment. I don't know.
Well,
well,
there's even in the Dark Tower series, isn't there a book or a scene where he breaks the fourth wall and he talks about, Stephen King is writing this world, and I
Mm.
can't remember, but
But yeah, it's like, so I think maybe he feels that it's a, it maybe feels like it's an insult. I don't know.
I've heard. I have obviously no knowledge of this, but I've heard off and on that John Carpenter and Stephen King are good friends and also arch enemies,
Yeah.
and I don't know what the truth is. So
Well,
I
it's basically John Carpenter is, as anyone who's ever worked with him knows. I mean, I haven't, but I've heard the stories. He's John Carpenter. That's all you can say about it. He is who he is, and
I
everyone.
gotta show I gotta show this since we're discussing Mr. Carpenter.
Oh, nice.
I met him
He
a couple
looks
years
even
ago.
miserable there. Brilliant.
nice.
Yeah, because basically my background was well, not background, obviously, because it was when I was in my 40s, but I worked for about a decade for Clive Barker,
Hmm,
and that's where I
neat.
got a lot of my like publishing knowledge from, because obviously working with his books and contracts with his stuff. Um, so that's like, so you get to see the inside world of these horror legends, and at the end of the day, it's just people. They're just people
Yeah,
pretending that they know what they're doing, where no one does.
you know,
Like,
one of the thing I want to ask you guys what you enjoy so much about the movie, enjoy most about the movie, and I'll just what I like about it is what I like about a lot of movies and books that do it well at least. I love it when reality is questioned, like a Philip
hmm,
K. Dick kind of thing. Um, and I love it when the fourth wall is broken if it's done well,
hmm.
you know. And it's I don't know why I like it, but it's fun for me. So, and I want to ask you guys, what draws you to In the Mouth of Madness, and why do you love the film so much?
I'll go. I think it's got the most perfect ending of any film I've ever seen. Like, things have equaled it in terms of a great ending, like the ending of The Thing, another Carpenter one. Great ending. This one, it makes the rest of the film probably better than it actually is. I don't know. But the hot, like, you could only in the 90s could you make a film with that ending. I mean, that was Twilight Zone level, like, like it was genius. I mean, yeah, but as I say, then only in the 90s. No, obviously in the 50s, like Rod Serling could have written that. That
Yeah,
was genius. The fact that anyone had the balls to put a lot of budget behind something that turns out like, yeah, the world's ended and he's the main character. I mean, that is a level of meta that it actually hurts your brain to dissect it too much, because then you have to look back at the film and go, wait, so what bits are real then? Like, when did he write it? At what point did he start writing? At what point did
right.
John Trent become real? At what point did
Yeah, I
Styles
love
become
that
real?
stuff.
And
Yeah,
also, the biggest question of it all, Sutter Kane, German name, Jürgen Prochnow, German actor. So does that mean that the person who wrote The End of the World was writing in this second language? If he wrote in German, would it not work? That always that always was a question for me growing up, going, but he's called Sutter. That's a German name, isn't it? Like, but yes, I should have probably written it in German.
Darf ich bitte zur Toilette gehen? Which is just kind of go to the bathroom.
Jeremiah, I
That's
know,
all I really know.
So you
Jeremiah, I
need.
know it's one of your favorite movies too. What draws you to what do you like about it so much?
I mean, all the things that were just mentioned. I also love any narrative that shows a character going insane. It's like just one of my absolute favorite things. I think because The Shining, the film adaptation,
Mm,
was one of the first horror things I ever saw, And even though, obviously Jack is the villain in that, there's something so fun about watching someone go crazy. I'm always drawn to a narrative with people
In
going crazy.
movies too.
Mm.
The the lighthouse is another one with people just going nuts, and that's all the arc is really. It's like the Evil Dead, the first Evil
Yeah.
Dead, has that fantastic, and a lot of the stories with people going crazy have this similar arc of it's starting here and it's just a complete progression up to an insane ending. Like
Mm.
Evil Dead, I think of the part where he goes into the basement by himself and then blood starts spraying and he starts like just going nuts and there's music playing and he's like completely lost it at that point. um the Shining's a little different because he's the villain, so you're not rooting for that, but when he starts axing people you're like holy crap. And yeah, and then in this you get to see Trent slowly dealing with the fact that he's can't handle reality. And I thought in the novelization, I related to Trent a lot more because obviously movies you don't get internal thoughts.
Mm.
So I
Right.
loved reading about how Trent was rationalizing what was happening to him for as
Mm.
long as he could. It's the idea that it's like this is just all like an amusement park thing, or
Yeah.
this is a show for ads. And in the viral marketing thing, when this movie came out, I don't know if there was the same knowledge of viral marketing that there is now. So I
Mm.
thought that actually fit really well, where people have a more knowledge of viral marketing now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, on
that like
alternate reality games that's a great point, Jeremiah. Alternate reality games that are marketing something like a video game or a movie or anything or a
Mm.
book, you know, they really blur the line between fiction and reality too. So
Well, so
I,
I think one of my biggest loves from gaming. I'm going to get the title wrong. Was it Eternal Darkness? Where you're playing and halfway through the TV screen turns off, and you think your TV screen's turned off,
I
and
my
and you
friend
think it's
Alan would know.
but then you're like turn your PlayStation at the time off, and it would lose the game.
I
So it's
I know
basically like
Metal Gear Solid did similar
mm.
stuff, but not. I don't know if not the exact same thing, but it would read your memory card and talk to you, which was
That's
creepy.
it. That kind of stuff's
Yeah,
great. Like anything
yeah,
playing you, because also you're stuck with the whole point of like oh like in the Mouth of Madness, the film could be read as that's just John Trent went mad and nothing about uh Sutter Cane being a prophet or anything heralding the old gods was real. Like any of that could be read into it that he was insane from the start.
right.
Um, but same with like say you could take that with any book, any sort of book or film where somebody's going mad. They're the unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
Like
That,
I mean,
Here's
in
my
I
my
love it.
yeah, in my book, I've made it so no, he's not insane. Like I had to choose a lane to go in because it could have been done from either standpoint, where instead of Sutter talking to the reader, it was John talking to the reader, and the last line or the last final words would have been him accepting that this might not be real, which would have made a great style of adaptation as well. But I felt this way was more how people initially see the film
there's
before you
a
have to read before you read all into it and make it all up.
there's a really
No,
good book by Dan Simmons.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the title. I can't remember the title, but Sherlock Holmes is one of the protagonists.
Hmm.
And at the beginning of the book, he's about to commit suicide because he's such a brilliant man, obviously, that he has weighed all the evidence and come to the conclusion that he's a fictional character. And
That's actually
man,
genius.
I loved that. And there's even a scene in the book where he gets high on, I don't know, cocaine or something, and he starts to see letters form around him. And, I can't do it justice, but it's a damn good book. The Fifth Heart. Thank you, Alan.
It's tough.
My friend Alan is watching live, and he's a friend and a co-panelist and a Patreon. And I have a couple questions from him.
Yeah.
A couple of them you've already answered, but I'll get to his question in the side chat first. By the way, Sephiros, if I'm saying that right, in the side chat says, yes, the sanity meter in eternal darkness.
That's
So,
yes.
um, Alan's first question is, has Christian ever been interested in novelizing horror or sci-fi games? Alan's a big gamer.
I have tried. I mean, obviously the I have always wanted, I mean, to do Silent Hill. I know that there's the new film coming out, but I've always wanted to do the games, not the films, because the films had novelizations. And I always wanted to do that. I've obviously Resident Evils have had so many of them. Things like I'd love to do something like Eternal Darkness. There's any of the horror ones, but the problem is with a lot of games is that the rights holders are normally back in the day they would have been an independent studio where if
Yeah.
they were doing the game, and back then it would probably be possible, but a lot of the studios folded, got bought out by a bigger conglomerate, and then are probably owned by someone who wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember even going back in the very early days before I even set this up, I contacted about Fallout when Fallout 3 first came out because it was my first one. I was going, that would make a cool book.
Yeah.
And but even that point, it was like the rights are too messy because you're not dealing most of the time with one creator. You're dealing with many, many writers and a lot of red tape to go through. And a lot nowadays, if it's owned by someone big, they want nothing to do with it unless there's money, a lot of money up front. But at the end of the day, book sales are not the kind of things they used to be. Like as I said, Stephen
Sure.
King can make a living.
Hmm.
1% of authors can make a living. Someone making novelizations of films that have been out for 3 decades isn't the kind of person who can pay. I mean, one film I got offered, they said 50 grand up front. And I was like, the film
No.
didn't even cost 50 grand.
I
Like,
know so many. I know so many friends. First, somebody told me once, and I think this is so wise, and it's helped me over the years too, that if you want to achieve your dream, you have to be willing to be poor. And
hmm,
it doesn't mean that you will be poor, but you have to be willing to be. No one, very few people get rich podcasting, or as
hmm,
you say, writing books, or writing music, or musicians. I have a lot of very talented writer friends. Jeremiah's one of them. And I have one who's extremely popular, who's actually good friends with King. And you look at him and you're like, yeah, he's got it made. He's he's got a job,
hmm.
you know? So yeah, that can't be the ultimate goal if you're a writer.
No,
It just
it's
can't
not.
be.
But it's amazing that the big studios are the ones that believe that. I mean, obviously they protect what they have, and they say this is
Sure.
our IP type thing. Why should we give it to you for like what you're offering? Um, but it's like you've got people have to look at things realistically. That just because a film is beloved by me doesn't make it a film that's going to be beloved by everyone out there. I mean, it's novelizations are for a small audience. I know that.
Sure.
But this is the reason why, say, this month I'm releasing 8 novelizations. I mean, a lot of people went, "Oh yeah, but you obviously must have got AI to write it because you've released them so quickly." It's like, yeah, I've been writing these for 3 years. It's fine. Like, I'm releasing them all now for a very specific purpose because I want to try and kickstart or get people's attention that these kind of books are out there, that these kind of films are out there. Because most of the ones I do, people might not have even heard of. Like they might have heard of, like if you're sort of 40s, 50s, you might have been around at the time, but a lot of them people might have forgotten about, like The Gate, Night of the Comet. Uh, they have got cult fan bases, but they're not really known anymore. So I'm hoping that to basically make it, I don't know, to try and push the doors open to this kind of stuff. But as your friend asked, like, I would love to do a horror game, love to do one,
Yeah.
but I haven't been successful in trying to even get a conversation with the right people. I mean, especially
Yeah.
seeing as a lot of the horror games uh, might have started off in Japan, and they do not want anything to do with English horror.
It
Was it
was
English written horror?
it was a golden era going back to the late '90s when I love Resident Evil. It's like my
Mm,
favorite franchise, but um, those novelizations, it was so amazing to get those. It was just
mm,
a really short window of time where we would get like the company would think, oh, this is something we could do, and it just
yeah,
doesn't exist anymore. And it's a shame, and it's a shame
but
that
that's why.
companies don't realize this is something that is cool.
Yeah, because I'm trying to push it, but also I'm trying to push like something else. Like there's all these amazing filmmakers out there that might be too old, or what they do is no longer in vogue, so can't get their films made. And but they might have an amazing script that they've never produced, that they can't produce. Maybe it's too expensive to do it, and they're just like, oh, it fell by the wayside, whatever. But I've been approaching filmmakers that I admire and saying, have you got a script that you haven't release that you would like novelized? Because then at least
That's
it
a
gets
great
it out
idea,
there.
Chris.
I've done one already for Tom Holland, the guy that created Child's Play and Fright Night.
Right.
Um, he had one. It's not horror. It's a murder mystery thriller called Killing Frank, and he was going to make that in the 2000s, and that he had it all cast and everything, and the funding fell through, and he never got to make it. And now in his 80s, he's there going, "I'm never going to get this, but I'd like at least the story out there. It'd be quite fun." So I wrote that with him, and
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to do that a bit more, but also I'm reaching out to other things like concept albums, like everything from, I mean, from Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, My Chemical Romance, The Black Parade, Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. I've tried to reach out to all the kind of the music I loved, and yes, I know I said I love My Chemical Romance. I'll die on this hill, and uh, but unfortunately, getting any kind of reply from musicians is even harder than getting it from filmmakers. Musicians do not like replying to emails ever.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. The opposite happened a couple of times in the 80s. I grew up in
Mhm.
the 80s and I played a lot of interactive fiction games, if you're
Mhm.
familiar with those.
Mhm.
And there were a couple that came out that it's basically text and you're the main character. And a Fahrenheit 451 one came out. It
Yeah.
was kind of a sequel to the book, What Happens to Montag after the novel.
Yeah.
And Bradbury actually helped write the game as well. The story part
Yeah.
of the game. And what else? The Amber, Nine Princes in Amber.
Mhm.
Uh that game came out where you're Corwin. So yeah, it's weird. Stuff that's not gonna happen today,
Yeah.
you know.
So that sort of stuff would be great. There's so many opportunities that I think if companies and like creators start seeing like novelizations having an effect with the audience again, I think that things like that will come back. Like
Well,
people start taking chances on different styles of storytelling and interactivity within the stories instead of just as
yeah,
it has been a graphic novel. Like that seems to be the thing that's never stopped. There's always been a graphic novel's prequel or sequel of a film. But
right.
like because like there's Event Horizon's got a prequel comic coming out from IDW. And I've been trying to just get the rights to republish the old Event Horizon novelization, and that they've got problems like working that out. Haven't got problems getting a graphic novel done because they're a different set of rights. It's like, really, are they? Okay.
Well, I think what you're doing is very cool.
Thank you.
Really is. Um, let's see. Yeah, Jeremiah, did you ask him? Well, Alan wanted to know about any other Sutter Kane novels.
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely tried. The problem is, again, the rights, because they were referenced in the film, they are considered part of the film's IP because they weren't actually, it wasn't, the story wasn't told, but the concept of them is. So it's kind of a murky gray area. I mean, I managed to write that one chapter of the feeding and throw that in, and no one had a problem with it. So I was like, I was really expecting there to be a problem. But I mean, I have asked Mike about it, and he said he'd look into it, but it's one of those things that unfortunately I don't think I'd be able to live up to in the Mouth of Madness at all. I mean, I'd love to
Well,
think I would, but in reality, what I would write would be not as good as that story because I've already written the best story that that series of books could possibly be.
I
Because
see what
nothing
you
that come
mean.
before it could be as good as that because that would negate In the Mouth of Madness. So it's like I'd
Yeah.
love to write all of them. I think there's like what, another five. Um,
Well, I know
but
Jeremiah had a question about
mm,
um, the
Yeah.
end of the
Oh well.
world as we
So
know it.
yeah, I mean this it based on what you're saying, it sounds like the rights are this would probably murky too. But I've always wanted to explore, because they in the movie you spend only like 5 minutes in the apocalypse of everything. People are mutating, reading books.
yeah.
I would love to read a collection of short stories set in that time period,
Mm,
set in the Mouth of Madness universe where people are, different other than John Trent are experiencing that, horror apocalypse. And when I was talking to Mike about it, it's like it's the end of the world as you know it book that just came out, which is
yeah.
new stories of the stand. Basically, it's the same concept, and I've always wanted to see that for In the Mouth of Madness.
I
But
mean, again, yeah, but that one, unfortunately, that isn't even a murky area. That is sequel rights, and sequel
uh,
rights don't belong to. If it's the Writers Guild rules are you own the literary rights to republish your screenplay or produce it as a novelization. You don't own you don't own anything else. The only times that isn't necessarily a thing is if it's an independent film and the person owns their rights, or a small company might own, and they'll be quite amenable to that kind of thing. But unfortunately, I mean, that would be the dream. I mean, as soon as I saw this, that like the End of the World as we know it come out, I was like, this has to be a. Why can't we know that? Like, I would love to know what happened in the rest of the world.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Now that what I'll have to do is just do my discount version of,
well,
of
you've
like
got to,
my apocalypse.
but you've got to
Or
remember
you could
that,
do the Rick Lay thing and name it something else. You
Yeah,
know,
or you
yeah.
could,
So
or you could just write it and not charge for it, and then you don't have to worry. Like, literally, only if you're making money for it, 'cause it classes as fan fiction. And I
really,
do not look down on fan fiction because
I
basically
don't either.
everything I do is fan fiction, but it's licensed
well,
because I'm a fan and it's fiction.
yeah,
Like,
and
it's
just like talking about this stuff was making me think about how much like Cthulhu mythos fiction and King in Yellow fiction is in a similar area of like we're kind of taking those familiar things and we're putting our own spins in a lot of cases
yeah.
on that stuff. But it is a similar thing where you're kind of taking a recognizable IP to use a dreaded
Mm.
Yeah, you're writing fan
word there.
fiction set
But
But
in. Yeah,
yeah,
but all you would actually the only thing you would really use from In the Mouth of Madness if you were doing what's in the rest of the world, because you'd not, some people would be reading, but you'd mentioned Sutter Cane's books having some, maybe there's been a causality between people noticing that, but in reality, you don't have to. An event happened in Maine or something, like something to do with a writer. You literally could be as vague as you want, not mentioning Sutter Cane, but having all the effects as part of it. And
right,
it doesn't have to be, you don't have
right.
to break IP to do that. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, you couldn't market it as a sequel, but a lot of people have written books and said they're inspired by, but actually, it's a direct sequel. Like,
yeah.
I've seen a few of those books where you go, it's just inspired by. It's like, this is literally the same. He changed a couple of character names. Like,
Yeah, reading the novelization last night, I was thinking like, what happens to like a rural community where you can't read horror, right?
yeah.
There's a story right there where monsters would be encroaching on that community most likely. Um, Also, just it was just very funny. We were talking earlier about like how the book, watching the movie, like trying to think about the layers of the movie can kind of make you go crazy. And last night when I was reading your novelization, I was like, oh, I am reading a fictional book about a fictional movie with like it's just like started to like I started to go a little
Yeah,
crazy just
all
thinking
the
about that.
layers.
Like,
The
yeah,
thing is, I had that while writing it.
yeah,
Like, I actually had a moment where I had to have a week away from it. And because I was going, oh, this is just getting too much. Because it was weird being in that headspace of writing that paranoia makes you a bit paranoid. And
I'm sure. Have you seen the horror movie Host
yes.
that came out during the pandemic? Like, I don't know. Like less than a week after it came out, I interviewed the actors,
Mm.
that were in it on Zoom, like we are right now.
Mm.
And the movie takes place on Zoom, and it was weird. I was talking to the people in the movie on Zoom about a movie that happened on Zoom, you know. So,
I've got to say, out of the pandemic, a lot of people did some genius things with like working on Zoom. That was probably one of the greatest ones. I mean,
yeah,
Host was phenomenal.
and all the special effects, the things that happened, I'm
Mm.
like, how did you guys do this?
I'm
You know?
friends with the effects guy on that,
Oh, really?
Dan, and he's absolute genius. And you can imagine it, he can make it. Um,
Well, I guess that answers that question, but it's still, yeah, it was a great idea, you know.
mm.
Tell us about your other books.
Okay, I'll tell you. Well, let's see. I started as with Encyclopocalypse Publications. I helped create the company, and I licensed a few novelizations and did Wishmaster, Creature, or Titan Find, as it's called in England, and Vamp. And then after I went out on my own, I started with Session 9. And that was a Hail
Great
Mary
movie.
kind of one. Because I was like, because when you send out an email to any of these people, you think, well, not, 99% of the time you'll never hear a reply. And you'll send a few badgering emails and maybe they'll tell you to, get lost or not. But Brad Anderson replied, was again like Mike DeLuca, absolutely loveliest person on the planet, and was great with it. And from that opened so many doors. Session 9 did, because when you're
Oh,
contacting creatives saying, "Oh, I have Vamp," no, it doesn't make a difference. Session 9 opened doors, and from
Right.
there I got one of my favorite films, The First Power, which was the Lou Diamond Phillips
Hmm.
like slasher. I mean, I loved that back in the day because like it started off the other films like the Fallen with Denzel Washington, like the same theme of Shocker, the body hopping
Right.
demon or sort of serial killer. And from there, I then got Maniac Cop trilogy. I did all three, including Larry Cohen's original screenplay of number three, which I had to do a lot of fixing with because it was a very broken script, which is nothing like the actual film. But I mean, that made people look at me and go, wait, you did all three? Really? Why? That was actually, I had that in two podcast interviews. My response to all of them was, why not? Why not? I love Maniac Cop 1 and 2. 3, I didn't like the film, but the script wasn't the film. So that was good. And then I basically planned this month where I've got Beneath Perfection, which is the Tremors novelization. Universal, being Universal, wouldn't allow us to license the name Tremors.
Hmm.
It benefits them, but they wouldn't allow it. So, that's, you get that occasionally. You're like saying to people, I will pay you a percentage of these book sales to give us permission to just call it that. And they said no, so we had to call it Beneath Perfection, which is the original title of the screenplay.
Hmm.
Next one is The Gate. These are all out in
Oh
October,
yeah.
by the way. And The Gate is, if you ever saw that, it was like a kind of Goonies
Yep.
horror film. But this is based on Michael Nankin's original one, where, because he was always annoyed that it went too kiddie and it was supposed to be about kids, but an adult story of horror. So this is basically the horror version of The Gate, how he originally wanted it. Next one, and this is one of my, I am so proud of this book, and virtually no one knows the film. Doghouse. Doghouse is an English zombie comedy film. Shaun of the Dead is all well and good, and that's the one that everyone knows. Doghouse is the one that I love. And this basically is, well, Stephen Graham, Danny Dyer, and Noel Clarke battling a load of female zombies because zombies only affect the women in this novel.
Yeah.
So there's a reason behind it, but it's a comedy horror, and it was my chance of doing comedy. Next up, Night of the Comet. That's I think it's a great one. I think it's so much fun. But this is like all of these ones are other ones where you're dealing with a fan base that are like quite vocal about how much they love it, which means that I've got a bar to hit, which I just hope that I'm hitting a lot of the time. Got two more. Next one, Witchboard, which I don't know if you've seen Witchboard. It's just obviously what it is. It's a Ouija board film, which is just so much fun. I loved it as a kid. This is one of the films that I saw on TV late at night and then didn't know the title and was convinced I made it up. And then until one of my friends mentioned
That's
it,
funny.
like, and it was like 92 or 93. And I was like, I was telling my friend about it, going, oh, there's this film. I must have dreamt it. And he was like, well, you mean Witchboard? Yeah, here's the VHS of it. I was like,
That's
oh.
great.
Next one, D. Snyder's Strangeland. Don't know if you ever saw this. This is the one.
Hmm.
Was this 99? Is this an, or 96? It was one of the 90s films anyway. But yeah, this one, this is D, because D invented the backstory to Freddy Krueger without realizing it. Because his one of his songs he did in Twisted Sister called Street Justice, which tells the story of a child molester who's uh, killed by the street justice of the families, and he comes back. And then yeah, that was in the 70s, and then Freddy Krueger was invented. So basically, I think that there was a bit of influence there. But this is on his. I suppose it was like a torture porn film. But this is another one, and the last one, which I don't have a copy of here, is The Descent, Neil Marshall's film, which is out in 2 days' time.
Well, in
So
session 9, right?
yeah, well, session 9, yeah, session 9's out already. That was out since October. Again, no one knew it was out. I have spent a lot of money on marketing, and it's amazing that like the best promotion I've had from anything is going on podcasts like these. Like
Oh, that's
more
good to
than
hear.
Facebook ads or Google ads or spending hundreds on these things that they tell you will get to the right people. I mean, even
Yeah.
articles in Fangoria. Like I've had an article in Fangoria on me where I talk about all of my books. Yet that didn't do anything. But speaking on a podcast is because the people who watch these podcasts and enjoy these podcasts are the fans, and it's the fans that want to know about this, and they're not the kind of people that will sit there scrolling social media waiting for an ad to pop up. They'll be
Right,
the
and Fangoria may have more followers than I do, but are they all, these cult followers? No. I
they're
mean,
not. I mean,
cult in
most
the
of the
nicest way,
yeah, I think
that really love this.
most of the followers of Fangoria are the people within the business wanting to keep updated on the news within the business, or
Mhm.
people who are looking for advertising opportunities and things. So other businesses. The actual fans will probably buy the magazine, but it's only like once every like quarter. But they'll do that. It's like for horror, it's so difficult because I started off writing my own books. Like I've got like a few, like I think like 5 or 6 of my own novels out there. One of them, The Devil in the Deep, is an old gods one. So that's why I started off with the Lovecraftian thing there. But I like marketing those is so horrible. Marketing
Oh,
your,
yeah,
it's just
it's hard.
like
I'm
because
doing it now, so yeah,
yeah,
it's
because
hard.
like
But, in the
because you've got
mouth
the
of
whole thing of
madness, you doing this, I think will open
mm,
doors to the rest of your books.
well,
Yeah,
hopefully, yeah. I mean, I really like it's so difficult trying to get people to pay attention to you as a person when you've done nothing that they like. You can say, I've written this book. I mean, hey, it's got a cool cover. Yeah, you could buy it. They'll go, yeah, cool cover. Don't care. Um, and that's really it. But with the novelizations, I'm hitting a fan base who might like my style of writing. I mean, it might not. I mean, if you are a die-hard Richard Matheson fan and you like the short, sharp kind of writing to the point, no fluff, that's it, you're gonna hate my writing. If you like the Stephen King, I'm gonna describe everything to you. Then you'll like my writing. But I know it's like everything's so subjective. But I mean, the dream would be it opens up people to my books. But if they just like these books, that would do me.
right. Well, and you're doing what you want to do.
Mm.
That's
But the
success
whole
too.
thing of like saying it's not about the money, no, it's not. I mean, if it turns out, if all, I mean, I've even got like I think next year I've probably got another 15 lined up. Um, like everything from Wrong Turn, like which people know about, to The Dark Side of the Moon, which is a sci-fi horror that predated Event Horizon, but it's the same kind of thing. Um, that no one's heard of. So it's like a whole scale. Um, but I'm also like I've started like getting in other writers for when I needed to do things. So I've got like Chris Ryle, who did IDW. He's doing a book for me, and I'm trying to make this grow as much as possible because I do want it to become a thing. Like, I want it to become a thing where filmmakers start to approach the company and say,
Right.
"You do a great job. We want you to do this for us." Instead of at the moment, the only people that release novelizations are independent publishers who are very small, like me, or people like Titan Books, who will only do ones that they think are marketable and will make them money, not because that would be great to be a book. It's not about that. It's just business. Or you go to like the kind of the Marvel ones that are basically that come out, like the Disney novelizations of the Avengers films and all that, and all the they will always come out, but nobody's really paying much attention to them because they're not aimed at the same kind of readers.
Right.
Like so, I'm hoping this basically just makes other filmmakers start to take notice. And I'm hoping that because for every one book I've got here, as I said, 99 others have turned me down. I've approached everyone from like, I approached Rob Zombie for the Firefly trilogy because I thought House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Reject would have been absolutely amazing as novelizations, but no interest. Stephen King, as I said, he said no, outright no to Sleepwalkers and Storm of the Century. I asked about. Even though I wanted Maximum Overdrive, but Trucks is out there, so I can't really. But
Yeah.
he said no anyway, so there's yeah. But I mean, I do have some things. I mean, I'd love to like tell you the ones that have said yes that I've got coming up, but I can't for some of them. Um, but at the end of the day, I, In the Mouth of Madness is where it was for me. I mean, if I had to have my biggest white whale, the one that above everything else, but I will never get it in a million years, is Nightmare on Elm Street. All of them. I mean, apart from, I know New Nightmare had a great novelization by Dave Bergantino, And that doesn't need to be done. Freddy versus Jason had one. That doesn't need to be done. But the first ones got those little kiddified compendium ones that are 2 books in one tiny book, and they're about 60 to 80 pages of film. They are terrible, and they never got to have a proper novelization. And they should, but the problem is the rights are so bad there. I mean, there is some rights that Wes managed to get his the rights came back to Nightmare on Elm Street, the original script, but the problem is there's lots of other rights around that as well. So he might own the script, but he doesn't necessarily own the novelization rights to the script. And New Line own all the other rights, and they don't want to. It's a whole thing.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Christian. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
I'm sorry if I blabbed a bit, but
Oh,
I
no,
talk
no,
a
no.
lot.
No, you didn't. In the Mouth of Madness is available in print, and it's available on Kindle. It's available at echohorror.com, but it's also available on Amazon.
There
And
is
I know,
for the hardcover, the printer came into a bit of a problem and they've delayed the hardcover. So if you look on Amazon, it says the hardcover won't dispatch until April 2026. A lot of people have had theirs already, but for some reason, I'm trying to sort that out, but it hasn't been sorted out yet. And the other thing I do have to mention, I don't have to mention this, but I really do have to mention. Now, as you know, Sutter Cane, when he wrote this, his editor got a copy of it, and his editor went a bit mad. And his editor is the reason why there's a spelling mistake on the back, which which I'm fixing now, but it's all his editor's fault because he went mad.
right.
So
Yeah. Yes, he did.
I had someone pick that up. It was like on like you spend so much time on the insides of the book and you get proofread it to hell and back. You have so many people proofreading it.
Yeah, he
And
was
then
too
you get
busy
to the
with the
cover.
axe to
Yeah,
notice
he's too
that.
busy with the axe. And then I had someone on Amazon point it out and actually put pictures up. And I'm like, you didn't have to do that. And it was like
Yeah.
the whole feedback was like, that's a novelty, but yeah, it's not good quality. It's like you haven't even read the book.
Well, and the other thing is the Kindle version is what, $5.99, something like
Yeah.
that. It's very inexpensive. So for you Kindle people out there,
Yeah. I mean, I would love to get audiobooks for a lot of these, but getting audiobook readers, sort of narrators, is
it's
quite difficult.
expensive.
And
Yeah.
I mean, and also like the ones that out there that do royalty share up front, I've had experience that when you send it off for them to do a clip, they send back an AI read one. So it's like so many of them, you're basically just getting AI to read the scripts that you do it, and they
Jeez.
say, yes, that's me. You
Oh
go,
my God.
okay.
That's the world we live in now. That's just great.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's mad.
I
It's all
really
mad.
hate that, you know. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Well,
I
anyway,
well,
yeah. Jeremiah, thanks for being here too.
oh, hey,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me. I just blurb by or mention my book again, A Mythos of Monsters of Madness.
Yes.
If you like In the Mouth of Madness, you should like my book. And oh, I just wanted to say quick that In the Mouth of Madness, I was just talking to Mike beforehand. It really is kind of like a linchpin of cosmic horror films because John Carpenter obviously made it and connects to other things like that. But then we also have, just for the audience, Sam Neill in Event Horizon in this. Um, David Werner in Cast a Deadly Spell, which is one you should probably look for to adapt. That would be a
Yeah.
good one. And he also was in the adaptation of Cold Air found in Necronomicon, another good one for
I have looked
novels.
up. I'm trying to find those rights at the moment, as well as Dagon.
Oh, Dagon would be fantastic. Although,
Mm.
well, that'd be cool. I mean, it's based off Shadow over Innsmouth, so it's like
Yeah.
that gets that, but that is cool. And then also Peter Jason, who was in Prince of Darkness. So I'm just saying, In the Mouth of Madness is such a classic of cosmic horror, and it is really is like a linchpin of cosmic horror in film and now
Hmm.
novelizations.
Alan says on the live chat, great interview. Christian sold me some books to me this afternoon. So good stuff.
Hey,
All right. Well,
thank you.
thanks. Oh, I should mention, uh, I've got the link to Jeremiah's book too, and it's not only available on Kindle, it's available on Kindle Unlimited for those of you who have that. So,
I will be
so
ordering
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
okay.
I would appreciate reviews at this point because I don't have many reviews. The one I have is fantastic, but I would take more.
it.
Well, thanks, Christian. Thanks for doing this.
No problem
And
whatsoever. Hope to
thanks,
see you
Jeremiah.
again.
Enjoy your evening.
Take
Thanks,
care.